of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the king of podcasts.
I bet that the music industry really wish they didn't abandon or downgrade or downplay what radio, what record stores, and what physical units used to mean to them as a whole, because they have really not handled things well ever since. We're going to talk about that tonight, specifically because of some of the petty things that are going on right now with Universal Music Group, which they now decided to go ahead and take a stand while they're still ongoing with their stalemate with TikTok. TikTok really hasn't lost much in terms of where all those major artists might not be heard on their platform. I don't know if there was like any kind of a exodus away from TikTok as a result. I still see a lot of music on my TikTok of a lot of different artists. It's just what happened is with Universal Music Group out of the way, other artists are getting a chance to be noticed on a regular basis that I get to see on a regular basis. When I think about all the independent artists, all the EDM artists, I mean, I look at stuff from Jax Jones and John Summit, and then I look at like pop artists like Tate McRae or Charlie XCX, and I constantly see their music on my feed. And not to mention all these indie artists that I never heard of before in my life that finally get a chance to hear them because they're part of my algorithm. It's part of the TikTok world that I see when I flip across. And it's great. And I love to see all this new music coming out because it has really opened my eyes to a lot of new music. Well, Universal Music Group decided to go a different route this time. They're going to go with Spotify now in hopes that they're going to be able to get something out of that move for themselves. So Spotify and Universal Music Group now want to make songs go viral without the need of TikTok. So their partnership is expanding. They're going to include teasers, pre-saves, and music videos. Well, people already kind of have an idea. I don't know how often I look to pre-save something on Spotify or Apple Music. I mean, I don't know how much anybody does it on Apple Music itself, but it's kind of interesting to do that. So a couple of stories have already come on to talk about that. So we're going to take from Billboard first. So now artists will have the chance to tease unreleased music on Spotify. Sharing snippets of unreleased songs on social media has been one of the most popular promotional methods for artists during the TikTok era, and in so many instances, artists haven't even finished writing the song that they've teased, but fan enthusiasm can make these scraps of music go viral anyway, especially on TikTok. Sending artists scrambling to write on the verse, record a full song, and release it as soon as possible, hopefully to a rapturous reception. Oh yeah, Ava Max, that's another one I always see putting out new music. And I always see her, she's upcoming with a new song. Isabella De La Rosa, I think it is. She's got a song called Favorite. I've been hearing, she's been trying to promote that for like 3 weeks now. And I'm like, when are we going to put this out? I think it's interesting to see about where new music comes out and what is the time frame of how long you can tease music before you finally release it. We're talking about singles, not necessarily the album, but it's an interesting story. And there's another story that goes along with Billboard that talks about what TikTok's been doing because they got new singles still, a new testing ground. And it's interesting. But this is where Universal doesn't want to play with TikTok, so they're going to go to Spotify to try to do more. And they're going to continue to, bury their head in the sand and think they don't need TikTok. Well, at the end of the day, I think TikTok is going to show them otherwise. Or Universal Music will just be another Leviathan of the music industry that's just going to be ignorant. Because that's what's going on right now. Where the music industry right now is hurting because of industry ignorance. They're still butthurt over the fact that they can't make money on the music they used to make before. Because they're worried about streaming. And you're worried so much about albums. And if you are, you're not making that much money on those albums and sales. Whose fault is that? Hey, if you wouldn't have kept your eye off the ball when it comes to Napster, when it comes to peer-to-peer sharing and streaming altogether, you missed out on it. Because now we're at the point where basically physical units are the past. And there are no stores that really cater to that physical unit market anymore. Best Buy's drop CDs. What, Target, Walmart? Where else? There are new music stores. Record stores? Those are a thing of the past. And that's what's going on. But fan enthusiasm can make these scraps of music go viral anyway. They can setting artists against what he said. Now, official recordings of UMGX are not currently available on the app. And also, songs that feature contributions from UMPG songwriters. But while most of these artists continue to use the app as a social tool to communicate with their followers, their ability to promote their music on TikTok is severely limited. Like, for instance, I saw that with Olivia Rodrigo, and I forget what she's been doing. Well, she's been doing some things where she just kind of like, she'll dub. She'll have the guy that was, rating crumble cookies and said there was the Olivia Rodrigo cookie and gave it a 0 out of 10. Or there was something else that she did, and I forget what it was, that was pretty cool where she recreated a moment and, give credit where credit's due. What she can do, what she's able to do. I can't say the same for other artists and what they're able to go and do to get people to go and catch on to what they're doing and what they're able to go and do. Spotify founder and CEO Daniel Ek says the forthcoming features will put more power in the hands of artists and their teams to help them authentically express themselves, officially promote their work, and better monetize their art. I will admit, when I'm watching, music going viral, one of the things I kind of noticed, and I really didn't pay attention to it so much yet, only because of the fact that when I go on Spotify, I just go to the playlist and I start looking for the music. But, with most playlists, your major playlists, you have a section now where if you see a little swirling box, an animated box right underneath the amount of likes there are for a playlist, right above the playlist listing, you can actually go ahead and, like a TikTok type of feed, you can actually preview those songs. And then you can actually figure out which ones you would put in the playlist. Ooh, what an easy way to go and do that. And I didn't really realize that what it was. I thought it was like more of like a little montage thing they would make, but I didn't realize that was just like their little mini feed, teaser feed, as they're mentioning here. And that's what it is. Makes it much easier for me to go and evaluate a song and see if it's something I want to go ahead and add to my playlist. Very cool. Universal Music Group has not said when artists will be able to start pre-sharing pre-release snippets on the platform, but we also don't know the extent to which Spotify users will actively hunt for pre-release music on the streaming service, when they prefer more passive forms of engagement. So there's some other information that goes along that Billboard has also written about this week. Media research they spoke with, and they found out that TikTok is the second biggest driver of music discovery for Gen Z after YouTube. TikTokers are nearly twice as likely to discover music on short-form video platforms than the average user of social or social form video platforms. Spotify is where many of these listeners go and listen to full songs they found on TikTok. So that's what Spotify did. TikTok also launched a new feature, allowing users to quickly save music they found on the platform to Spotify and other streaming services. It's not perfect, because when I try to go to it, it's going to try to play the song for me, and I'm like, don't autoplay. Just let me find it and add it to my playlist. Don't necessarily have to play it. But I know it's set up like that, and there's not much I can do about it. Spotify's been trying to go ahead and tout their ability to drive discovery on their own. But they're saying right now there is a disconnect between where music is being teased and where music is being streamed. The most powerful time to reach fans is when they've chosen to engage with music, like when they open up Spotify. You know what I'm going to say right now? I'm a broken record. Come on. What am I going to say next? Who used to be the outlet for music to be teased? Where if you missed the whole song, but you caught some of it, and it made you want to buy an album, or grab the single, or listen to it. Radio. Radio used to be that. And for whatever reason, radio doesn't want to be that. But if you were able to go and have new music discovery on a radio would be relevant again for music. But it's not. The record labels refuse to go ahead and work with them. They're so worried about their royalties. See, that's the other problem too. The music labels are so consumed on royalties, on money making, when they fail to even figure out the fact that they need and rely on these outside entities to be able to do something. But they don't care. Radio used to drive record sales. Radio can drive streaming and streaming sales as well. But they don't want to do that. And it's a major mistake. It's too bad, but they just don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. It's a shame they haven't figured that out. Remember, they're already upset that they don't make any money off of Spotify, enough money off of Spotify. They have their deal with them, but they're not making enough money off of them. Second, you're done with the fact that TikTok and the social media platforms, they're trying to make money off of them to make sure they get, even though they might not be playing the full songs or might not be providing the full songs. But for TikTok, as my point was before, why are they bitching at them when they're not even hearing more than 20 seconds of the song? So now you're going to expand a partnership Spotify with Universal Music Group because TikTok has made you realize, Universal Music, oh, the teasing of music works. Ooh, they hear a song that might be teased on and they might actually go ahead and wait to hear the song. Ooh, that sounds good, right? And when they do that, then we move along and say, okay, we're going to get to the point where we just don't want to do it with TikTok because they don't make any money for us. 1% of our total revenue. Well, don't you realize they're a promotional tool? Like, is it only matter that you just make money off of them? You can't leverage the promotional abilities. There's not a value to that you can attach on top of the royalties you're making? Like, why can't you do that? It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what they want to decide to do. Another great song that's about to be pushed out that we keep hearing a tease for, Morgan Wallen and Post Malone, I Need Help. Let me tell you, that duo right there, I've heard that, probably about 100 times so far. And I'm telling you, that's going to be a viral song, super automatic. I have no doubt that song goes number one the first time it gets to be pushed out in streaming. Billboard will put it number one. Morgan Wallen, Post Malone. I'm telling you, that song is going to hit. It's going to hit. And as you can see, when you look at Billboard and the way the chart is right now, it's all messed up because of the issues of the Universal Music Group, because they have not figured out a way. And the thing is, TikTok was a place that they were very reliant upon, and their music would go viral on it and the charts would go. But, what are we about? 6 weeks into this? And Universal Music still hasn't found a way to change that. Oh, by the way, Madison Beer, another artist that I saw her music for and her tours and all that good stuff. And you know what? She's doing great. But nobody makes a point about how well everybody's doing with music that's being put out there and what's being noticed. Let me tell you, they don't realize what the real action is going on right now. Because right now, Universal Music is choosing to fragment where people will be going to find their virality of music. So you're going to start with someone else that might be able to go and have the opportunity to create that buzz, that virality within the platform they already listen to the music on. You're expecting Spotify to act like a TikTok and change that. You think that's going to work. Meanwhile, TikTok has the instant catchability of virality. That is where viral things come from. YouTube, TikTok, and then maybe, X, Facebook, or Instagram and Facebook, something like that in order. But that's where we are. So, don't think that you're going to, get on here and all of a sudden it's going to change. I don't think so. And as for the artists, they're not going to have all the accoutrements that TikTok has on Spotify. They don't have that. I don't think they can make it work, but they could try. Universal Music is also has their publishing arm inking a deal with Spotify so the platform can share music videos in the U.S. And Spotify Music Videos launched for premium users in beta in 11 countries, but not in the U.S. earlier in March. So Spotify is now going to be offering the music videos as well to see if that'll make a change or not. I don't know if it'll work, but we can try to see if that works. Nothing with Spotify. Billboard got a lot of stories out here. So they're going to have a pre-save feature with new countdown pages. Stream on. So disconnecting where music's being teased and where music is actually being streamed. So new landing pages are being put in there. Spotify, listen, you can't knock them for trying to be the end-all, be-all place to do this. They're trying to make that happen. They're trying. But we'll see if it works for them. So with TikTok being in play, TikTok is still the testing ground for new singles, and they talk about why labels love it, and some artists and writers don't. And for some people, they say that TikTok is a problem for the music industry because artists are saying it's bad for business. And even though labels are trying out unreleased songs on the platform, producers, songwriters, and even artists are saying it's bad for business. So moving on to the story. This was 2 years ago, by the way. But I thought it would still be good to go put the story in here to play. Because they're realizing that TikTok is a low-cost method for unsigned talents to casually test audience reaction and build up streaming service pre-saves to their songs, being the norm for even household names to break their next hit before committing to a release date. We talked about this story. And remember, we had the artists and all that were complaining about this here. Well, they're not complaining about this much anymore, are they? Again, this story that it came out from Billboard, I talked about this back May of 2022. And, you know, when artists were complaining about the fact that, oh, we have to go and put this out before a music label will put on our music, we have to go and tease this song and get enough virality on it. So let's make that point real clear. By doing this, again, the artists are once again screwed because they're trying to find their way to get music out there. And they want social media. And how are you going to allow social media to do anything for them and get music they want to go and try to tease and put out there that could be a new record? Now you're making it where, well, TikTok, I mean, you could encourage or force the artists to keep doing viral content on TikTok to get their music played and maybe get an album put out. Well, then you took away the lifeline of that being possible by taking the music off of there. And the music cannot be put there anymore. That's not good either. So the idea is to bring deeper social music experiences to Spotify. But Spotify's not a social media app. I mean, Spotify can do what they can to try to create that possibility. But, I mean, are people going to Spotify to the social section to, like, discover new music? I mean, if you know enough, you know, that realize Friday mornings at midnight, all the playlists get relisted. Okay? All the playlists will get relisted. They'll get renewed. And that's when all the new music is going to be populated on all their particular curated lists, whether it's every week or every other week, or every month for that matter. And then you can go through and socially, you know, use kind of like these social-minded features to be able to preview music that you want to go and add to your playlists, or you want to add and listen to, or add albums, or whatever you want. Right? With the occasional thing they do where they add the little announcement within the homepage of the Spotify app, where you'll see certain music that might be attributed to something that you might be interested in from the algorithm, a recommended feature, and they'll drop that in there too. Like, I'll tell you what, you know, if you can't get radio to be a teaser, well, the DJ feature, how about this? Ooh, the DJ feature you have on Spotify. Why don't you have the DJ feature tease music? You know, if there's music that you want to go and hear that's teasable, and it fits the algorithm of the person listening to that DJ feature, then, hey, so we have some more music we want to play for you, but first, we want to tease a song that might be coming up that you might want to add to your playlist. And here's a song from whatever. And then you hear the song for a couple seconds and say, just, you know, if you want, go ahead and pre-save it under this artist. Whatever it is. You can do that too in the DJ feature. Just a thought. Just a little thought. But they're not going to be the spot for social media. Like even YouTube trying to create YouTube Shorts, where they're the long form videos, but then they also compete in the short form category. It's not easy for them. I can tell you, I haven't really paid attention to ever looking at YouTube Shorts when I know that TikTok's going to be the place that already has most of that content in the first place. It really is. I think the only place that I really look at that where like I might get short form content, but like it's a different type of content, is X, because some of the news content I see there, it's longer form or like clips of interviews and things like that. I see that more often on X. And I don't know, it just works better when I see it over there as opposed to anywhere else. But see, the thing is, I'm wondering is that the new joint announcement, like, is Spotify making any extra money by doing this? Like, you're opening the door for other services to go out and do the same thing, but like, who's paying who? Like for Spotify, you know, are they paying more money to have the access to have this extra content? Or like, what is that going to be? I don't know what that means, but that's the part that I don't understand. And the other thing that continues to be talked about is that would TikTok soon be banned? Well, even if it does get banned, I don't believe it's going to get banned, but if it does, then what happens is somebody else will take the role. Someone else will take the place of TikTok. I believe that. And it won't take long for somebody to go and come in and take the same kind of algorithm, same kind of setup, and move it. Maybe people will go to another source. They'll go to YouTube Shorts. They'll go to Instagram Reels. I don't know. They could do that. I think what they did when it comes to Instagram, I think the Reels is not that bad, but I see it for different content as well. Like, that's the thing too. Instagram Reels, TikTok, and X, when I look at it and I flip for content, I see 3 different things. I go there for 3 different reasons. And, I'm not going to necessarily, watch the same content from somebody else, a content creator, just because they have another platform. I usually don't do that. Like, if I'm going to follow somebody's content, I'll just probably watch it on one platform because that's where they're going to have it. Because everybody knows as a social media influencer or just doing social media in general, yeah, you put the same stuff on the same platforms. So you're just going to find some way for somebody to find it more than anything else. That's what you're trying to do. Now, this story is indicative of what's going on with the issues of the music industry in general. So we want to go and focus on those real quick. A story came out that I found here from drownedandsound.org. And they talked about a story that says music piracy and streaming is music's future overcooked. And they take the story here and they show a stat here of U.S. recorded music revenues by format, adjusted for inflation, $2023 from the RIAA, Recording Industry Association of America. Now they put this in from 1973 to 2023. So 1973, you see, from 73 into the 19, so most of the 80s, mid 70s up to 1980, you would see between 15 and $20 million in revenue, in value. Peak vinyl sales would be in 1978. That would be disco that would be responsible for that. Then there was a CD replacement cycle and MTV, which goes into the early 80s, 81 to about into the 90s. And that's when you see with physical units, with CDs, you have LPs, you still have vinyl, and you still have cassette. And all those various formats was when you saw a real rise for music, up to $25 million. And that would continue to be up there with CDs going on into the 2000s. And 1998, actually 2000, was their highest end. They broke 25 million in albums, $25 million in music. And that's not even counting what they had for, for LPs, for vinyls, for cassettes, and other things like that. And then somewhere into so let's say about the social media era, basically, we see that $15 million mark, we went down to that around 2008, and then it continues to go down. Piracy started coming in. Then the streaming era came in, 2013, 2014, and streaming became the biggest part. And then ringtones, ringbacks, all that kind of stuff was also included in the mix. But yeah, now streaming is the end-all, be-all of everything, and that's it. And now you're stuck with everything else that's going on, and it sucks for them. So this Drowned in Sound blog post, they talk about the fact that, seeing the changes in real time over the years. You worked behind the counter of a record store in a small town. You find out how and why some people are looking for records. Piracy would come up a lot, especially when people had heard one song with a wrong file name, really wanted to find the album it was on. And serving customers the latest albums and CD singles was a dream job and something I did to fund my music habit, alongside studying for my A levels and promoting gigs in the local venue. And around this time, I was downloading music from Napster, Kazaa, LimeWire, Audio Galaxy. And he said internet connections were so slow, could get 1 to 3 songs to download overnight on my dial-up modem. Audio quality was often terrible. And then, waiting some more gave me some time to chat online, consume a ton of music online, music media to pick what to download next. So watching things on MTV2, heard on Radio 1's Evening Session, or read a Melly Maker, Select, Vox, Kerrang, Rock Sound. So he would go through magazines, and this is a guy in the UK. But then you would go ahead and download music that wasn't random Weezer B-sides and often far more adventures for the average 16-year-old at his time. It might not seem it by today's standards, but I'd gone from listening to Blur and Oasis to downloading M5, Rakim, Planes Mistaken for Stars, Pitch Shifter, Patti Smith, Sonic Youth, The Slits, Le Tigre, pretty much anything on Kill Rock Stars, Glassjaw, Arab Strap, Broadcast, Kids 606, Deftones, Tom Waits, etc. I'll admit that, for me, my discovery into music and really just expanding out, that happened in college radio. Like being around all that music anyway just changed for me. And of course, that was the time I was still mid-90s. We still had CDs, but my new music discovery happened there. Plus we had, new music discovery from other ways. Like we had pirate radio. He doesn't mention this part, but for us, piracy was also mentioned with pirate radio. We had different music we had out there we didn't even know about, and we would discover it. And it was great. After all this research came time to go and take a risk on 12 pounds or a $15.99 album, 3 for $20 if I was lucky. And, I remember doing the same thing here. So he goes along and says that, we've had 2 generations who've benefited from that free, pour, always on tap of music in their pocket to form their taste, which must be amazing for them. What I fear is that how easy it is to be super served by the unlimited all-you-can-eat streaming buffet and get more and more of the same delivered by algorithms, or you could give whatever is trending a go. Convenience is a great antidote to the overwhelm, but it overcomes without context or human hand-holding to take you a little further from where you started, or someone to act as a guide you around a lost city where all the signs are in a language you don't quite understand. As self-serving machines increasingly replace curiosity, choice feels diminished. Future generations may grow up to be satiated and therefore less adventurous. Right. We used to have tastemakers. I've said this before many times. We're already seeing with the lack of crossover acts and a diminishing pool of festival headliners, not to mention the crisis in grassroots music. And is the industry worried that 5 to 10 years from now, there won't be the same craving for music, and without that desire, can value be sustained? Or quality, for that matter, my friend? Because it's true. He makes some great points here. We used to have people that helped to shape our music, to open our eyes or our ears to new music. All of that. How many clubs do we have out there with DJs that are actually putting new music out there to go and let us hear them, right? Radio stations do that on a regular basis. But not anymore, because they want to play the same music over and over. Or music we've already heard that's tried and tested. Well, they should be new music discovery. You just can't necessarily just expect people to go ahead and go researching themselves. There are not enough people that will do that. So you need to make it easy for them. You need to create a showcase where you can go ahead and help people find new music. To be honest with you, in America, I actually like the fact we have some of these national public radio stations that are trying to do some of that right now with independent music and some music out there just to give you a chance to hear something new, which I like that part. And he's obsessed with the idea of music appreciation and the need for figures who can do for genres and artists what can be done in general. Like for me, this is where, we had shows out there promoting new music, and we get, the chance to go and hear some music out here, and here we go. Somebody steers us in a direction to hear some new music. We don't have that. And that's a major problem. Now, what the music labels are not paying attention to is by playing around right here with artists' money. What they're not paying attention to the fact is that the artists, are they going to want to stay at the labels? Are they going to want to go ahead and just say, we're just going to go on our own? So there's a lot of music going like that these days. Here's a story coming out from Billboard. They talk about how major label deals are expiring. Will all bands decide to go indie again? And will we maybe see a new renaissance of music in terms of how these independent artists, these all bands will go indie again? Maybe they'll be rediscovered. The mid-2000s, they say, indie rock was booming. Major labels swooped in to sign many big acts. MGMT, Decemberists, Death Cab for Cutie, Bonnet Mouse, among others, have emerged from those deals into a wildly different music industry. A lot of change of recording contracts in the last 20 years. A new set of players for artists to choose from, not major labels, but prominent indies. Or prominent indies, but a number of distribution companies that offer some level of services. And it's according to Scott Booker, longtime manager of the Flaming Lips, currently without a label contract after fulfilling their deal with Warner Records. By the way, Paramore, a free agent, and they're still putting out music. So what happened is that in the aughts and 2010s, many major label acts sign low royalty deals and typically give up ownership of 3 to 5 albums for a long period. And many agreed to what were known as 360 deals, in which the label also participates in income from merchandise, sponsorship, ticket sales, and more. Yeah, making up for the money they're not getting. So labels could get these kind of terms because it was difficult, if not impossible, for artists to get national exposure without a record company's help. But now artists can go global before partnering with any label. So they have negotiating power to ask for and sometimes receive terms that would be unthinkable just a few years ago. So industry expectations around deal making have shifted. The new wars we're saying now are making sure that deals and reversions are short term so that the artist can get to the deal, get back these new recordings quickly. The artist leverage now and record deal negotiation stems in large part from their ability to generate streams. It doesn't always work for rock bands. Rock right now is the 5th most popular genre when ranked by percentage of current streams according to Illuminate. So certain artists, they have to figure out what they're going to do. And if the labels can't give them a deal, they're going to do something on their own. Whenever an artist who signed a traditional contract with a major label completes a deal, their old record company typically has one hook in them because they still likely own the act's previous sound recordings. If the label wants you to stay, they have the power to stay. We can adjust the royalty rate on your catalog, or in rare cases, take your recordings out of perpetuity and set reversions on them so you eventually get them back. That always comes up now in the renegotiations. A prominent indie label executive makes a point. Artists say, cool, we'll re-sign you, but we want these recordings back in 10 years. Leverage is conditional on the label wanting to keep the band. Some veteran bands might still want to find a major label partner for particular services, while radio's influence continues to diminish. Promotion still remains expensive, and the majors still have the most radio muscle. And so for Death Cab for Cutie, radio is still part of the Death Cab for Cutie picture. During the last Death Cab campaign and ticket sales, for example, if you look at markets that no longer have an alternative radio station, it negatively impacted our shows. Could you sell less records to keep more of the money? Yes, but there are certain aspects of your business that might suffer by doing that. So outside of the majors and major-owned distributors, indie label executives say they have seen a recent uptick in interest from veterans leaving majors in recent years. So the AAS signed a deal with Secretly Canadian in 2022 after years of working with Interscope. PJ Harvey released an album on Partisan Records in 2023 after 20 years with Island Records. And MGMT has a new album, Loss of Life, that came out in February through Mom and Pop Records. So more from the story here they're saying is that it's hard for any label if you only have the new record and someone else has all the catalog. Because a new record always drives catalog listening, but you're not participating in the income, an indie label executive says. But there's always been a thing where labels need and want important artists, even if they're too expensive to attract other artists. And a lot of these bands are in a good position that they can get favorable terms. And maybe they could do a one-record deal. The hope is we can do a good job. The artist is happy. We renew the contract. Over time, we can work with them long-term. And the indie labels will take anything they're going to get a new artist on board. And, they only have so many resources available at their disposal. So if you're just going to work off of social media, then you got that to work for you. But otherwise, is radio that important? When you think about the record labels, they're not even using radio anymore. They're continuing to take away radio promotion. They're just firing people for radio promotion. They're not even having that department even covered anymore. It's not even a consolidation anymore. I just think radio doesn't even get serviced like it used to anymore. I mean, who's going to take care of that? Some machine? AI? Who else do they have? Billie Eilish became very vocal when it comes to her music career. And it says that, sustainability in her career, it's a never-ending fucking fight, she says. Now, her thing is trying to go and do things for the environment and all. So, wanting to be able to go and be philanthropic, I guess, would be the thing. So that's the part where she's like, who's really helping out with that kind of stuff right now? And one of the things she said in here was really interesting. And she said this: I find it really frustrating as somebody who really goes out of my way to be sustainable and do the best I can and try to involve everybody in my team for being sustainable. And then it's some of the biggest artists who in the world making fucking 40 different vinyl packages that have a different unique thing just to get you to keep buying more. It's so wasteful, and it's irritating to me that we're still at a point when you care that much about your numbers and you care that much about making money, and it's all about your favorite artist doing that shit. So, not afraid to go and say something about her own causes, but also not looking highly to some of the others out there for what they're doing. Interesting to kind of see that. Another story came out this week from Stephen Beach at metro.co.uk that pop music really ain't what it used to be officially. And makes the point here that pop music lyrics have been dumbed down over the last 40 years. Dr. Eva Zangerli and her colleagues analyzed lyrics of 12,000 English language rap, country, pop, R&B, and rock songs released between 1980 and 2020, and 2,400 songs from each of the 5 genres. Well, if rap helped out there, probably is going to say that music is getting dumber. Let's just make that point across. In the journal Scientific Reports, they report that lyrics have become simpler, easier to understand over time. The number of different words used within songs has decreased, particularly in rap and rock songs, particularly. And the number of words with 3 or more syllables has increased in rap tracks since 1980. That's a little thought that come in here. A little music related, but why not put it in there? All right, a couple more stories before we wrap things up. In radio, let's go and talk about that. Listeners talk about how they feel about radio using AI in station programming. So again, radio is on the wrong track deciding to go and use artificial intelligence. Jacobs Media did a tech survey for 2024, and they said that they surveyed 31,000 radio listeners across the U.S. and Canada for a first-time view of the emerging technology from radio consumers. 58% of core radio listeners are very or somewhat familiar with artificial intelligence and are concerned with its use for cloning on-air personalities' voices. Listeners are less worried about using AI to record commercials and station identifiers. Right. Just the live stuff. There's more to it, but I'm not going to go and get into the mull into that too much. Interesting story about podcasting. There's a study that came out that when podcasters do advertising, that it doesn't really matter if the host is reading the ad. It might not matter. So the word is that a new study could open even more shows to host-read ads than before, since it shows those talent reads can be effective, even if it's not the podcast's actual host doing the talking. That if the analysis finds that a host-read ad when appearing on another similar podcast can also boost results for a brand. So, yeah, if you have somebody that's still host of another podcast and they decide to go ahead and have a commercial from that person reading the commercial, it still is going to do well in terms of advertising. There'll be revenue turned around as a result. That's what they're saying about that. That's interesting. One quick thing when it comes to television I'm learning about right here, and this is from Variety. Their VIP service are talking about the fact that they're limited data on streaming viewership, that they're not making as much as they used to in terms of the audience that's catching on to content on streaming. You know, they're the kind of retention that they're getting previously. A steep drop-off after top originals. So here's what they're saying about this. The top 20 original TV seasons claimed a lower share of viewing time on every service in 2023 versus 2022. Viewership shares of the most watched shows on Disney Plus in both 2022 and 2023, and how many originals reappeared among the top series 2 years in a row. So Illuminate's new streaming viewership progress shows the top 20 most watched TV seasons accounted for the vast majority of original series viewership on almost all the major U.S. streaming video on-demand platforms in 2022. Netflix had TV seasons beyond the top 20 collectively approach half of original shows viewing time in the U.S. So they're saying that media companies are grossly overspending on original content during the peak TV era. The volume of series produced to lure subscribers increasingly looks, in hindsight, looks like a poor considered strategy undertaken merely in an attempt to emulate Netflix, which produced only so many shows because it had to build its own proprietary library from scratch. So TV output now has dropped. That's also part because of the strike. So every platform saw a significant uptick in the proportion of viewership going to seasons outside the top 20. With fewer titles to watch, fewer new titles to watch, consumers split their viewing time more evenly between series, including previously released original seasons. So you're not getting enough people to watch new original content. They're exploring other content because they have to do something because of the subscription they're paying for. And that's the part they're considering here. So they're saying, like, Library shows like Grey's Anatomy reliably chart among the most watched titles on streaming week after week, year after year. New originals are hard-pressed to keep viewers coming back. That says something about the quality of the shows coming out that are new. They don't have the staying power. They don't have the quality that you want to go back and watch it again and again. I could have told you that a long time ago. How many shows do you watch right now that are new that you can go back and watch again and again? Or are they just disposable? Like, okay, they're good for one viewing and that's it. Like, how often do we get movies like that? How often do we get TV shows like that? It's often. It's very disposable now. Because remember, we get all these franchises, we get all these different remakes and rehashes. When it's disposable and it's not done with quality, yeah, people are not watching it as much as they used to. And so people just drop off. That's an issue. Or they're just not sticking around to another season to keep watching the same mid stuff they were watching. If they wanted to do that, they could just watch network TV. You would think that streaming television would have learned from network TV or the linear TV counterparts, but they didn't. That's a big connection there. And nobody's thinking about what to do about that, but that's just bad. Anyway, that's the show for tonight. We're going to keep it short because I'm not going to get back into the Diddy stuff again. It's just not worth it. If you wanted me to talk about Diddy, I did it on the Depraved and Debaucherous show this week. I did a pretty extensive conversation there. But for tonight, we'll just keep it right here where it's at. I think it just works out that way. And it'll give me time to get over my cold, which I'm finally getting myself over. It's just like still a little bit of the gunk still in me, and I'm trying to have just, not letting my allergies continue to be flaring up, the runny nose, the congestion, all that stuff. Try not to cough. It's an art in itself, just saying that. So anyway, that's the show for tonight. Thank you again for listening as you always do. kingofpodcasts.com is all my content and all the social media and all my other episodes of all my other shows. Make sure to come back for another Broadcasters podcast. And remember, until then, remember the content is king. Quality content. And the control of your content is in your hands.